Hello everyone, Sable here, back with another week 4 match from UUCL. So here we've got Tay versus Maris, and I don't really have a preamble to this one. I'm just going to hop right into it and see how it goes. Electabuzz versus Clefable. I would say this is pretty Clefable favored, especially if it has Body Slam, because Clefable kind of tanks most things that aren't Stab, Blizzard, and Fire Blast pretty well. Stab 120 BP moves will pick up a 3-8 KO on it, but pretty much everything else won't. I do wonder if this Clef's going to have Sing or something, or just go for slams, and I too would probably just go for slams versus an Electabuzz. Look at that damage difference. And another one, and now it's not quite in range, but Hyper Beam could do it, or a Doug Trio switch is pretty safe, not risking the para. And if this Doug has Slash, that's a pretty good click here. But no Slash, just gonna sub up and now get some damage on Kang or Toxic. Okay, so sub Tox, funny idea for sure. I don't think it's the most effective versus Kangaskhan. And here getting punished, I think that just EQing probably would have been better, but here we are. Lapras tanking that body slam, and now Buzz looking to get sacked to a correct call on the Sing. And Seismic Toss mid-ground covers for Doug Trio coming in. And a missed Blizzard, and Maris understandably just trying to take the KO here instead. And now going to Doug on what could have been a T-Bolt attempt to try to crit Lapras out of the game, but Tay very disciplined, just clicking Seismic Toss, which unfortunately does not even put Doug in range of another Seismic Toss, so it's not the safest thing, but I do think probably just sacking this for an entry is correct here. Kang looking like a mega threat. Maris doesn't really have a switch in among these three to Kang. If there's a Hypno on this squad, it won't be a good Kang switch in. So probably gonna force, yeah, okay, I was gonna say either an opposing Kangaskhan if she has it, or just a sack from something. So Tay advantage in this little Kang war. Maris going for a Blizzard to call out a potential counter, which, or just go for a freeze. I think maybe that was just for the freeze because she already is behind in this war and Tay doesn't really have much incentive to click counter. But definitely that was a bit of an iffy Blizzard in terms of the damage rolls. So I guess she had to be going for freeze or expecting maybe some kind of like switch out. Either way, because of the crit, she gets decent damage off, and Tay just going to pick up the KO here, but with Kang severely weakened. Trading most of a Kang for an opposing Kang works out pretty well for Mars here, I think because she didn't really have switch-ins to this. And now Doug gonna come in, take the revenge. Tay going to Moltres, so expecting an Earthquake, which makes sense because this is shown Subtox. So if it has Earthquake, probably the last move is Rock Slide, and Mars has no reason to gamble on the 10% miss and just lose the game immediately to predict a flyer that may or may not even be there. I don't know if I love this and that I don't love that Doug is going to get to Rock Slide this for a 50% damage and a potential crit Oko, but I do like this if it's a pivot. Let's see if there's a pivot. And Mars going to Gyarados as Tay does in fact pivot. So I like the pivot and I like Gyarados as a good mid-ground that covered for like Hypno slash Lapras coming in decently enough. And so Mars just going to go for this, and Tay gonna Psychic, so thinking that Doug might try to come back in on a T-Wave. Or just taking raw damage to set up the Moltres to clean through here, because the Moltres is looking pretty good here, especially if this Gara gets chipped. And especially if that Gara paras. Funny little rhyme, but Gara taking more chip, and gonna para Hypno finally, so it should win this 1v1. Unless that happens. Yeah, I mean, it's not the most consequential thing, but she is now behind on the like switch-ins in that now when she gets the KO, Tay gets to pick a switch into this, which means like Kang can come back in and just throw out a Hyper Beam. I wonder if she calls Hyper Beam, yeah, and goes to Clef. And Tay does in fact Hyper Beam. I do think it would have been reasonable for Tay to consider just clicking a Body Slam there because Clefable very reasonably can come in. And then you get the full Clefable before Dugtrio gets the revenge kill. But I think it's not the biggest deal in either direction. Like, everything is now in Moltres range except for Lapras barely and Hypno. So Tay is going to go to the Moltres. Very aggressive team. I have to imagine that Tay is about to, like, at least one of these last two, I have to imagine is going to be something else that is aggressive. Like a Dodrio, like an Agility Raichu or Dragonite and Articuno, a Persian, any of those fit in my mind here. Anything else that just helps push on top of these. So Lapras coming in rather than Doug, that could suggest that there's not even Rock Slide on the Doug, or it could just be that Maris doesn't want to lose her last bit of speed control. I think the latter is more likely here. So probably the idea here is Lapras gets to Blizzard this Moltres one time as long as it doesn't get crit by Fire Blast. And then after that it's Doug range and this Moltres can't really set up on it. So no crit. Does Blizzard connect? Blizzard does connect. No crit, no freeze. So Moltres will win this, but at the cost of going down to Doug. And Tay is going to have to deal with a Doug Trio at low percent and a Hypno, the Hypno being the one I'm more scared of at this moment. Hard Lapras into Doug. So obviously Rock Slide doesn't do very much to Lapras, and this makes sense as a play because Hypno is going to really punish Lapras. But that's so unlucky. So critical hit into miss, and now as long as Lap hits this, it's not too bad. Yeah, okay, that could have been a lot worse. I really wonder what Tay's last is because this Hypno can absolutely cheese its way through here with just one Hypnosis hit at the right time. I think you have to send Moltres, probably click Hyper Beam, and then hope the last can beat Hypno without getting instant Hypnosis. So there's the Hyper Beam, this is going to get taken down. And the Thunder Wave first from Mars, kind of covering options there. It makes sense. And now the last will be a Kuno. Okay. So pretty much nothing was going to one-shot Hypno from here. Like Dodrio would have a role for it, but everything else wouldn't. So Articuno's probably one of the better things that you could have here against this Hypno, in that you're going to attack it first, of course. You can crit it out of the game. You can freeze it out of the game. You can dodge a Hypnosis. There's a lot of ways that Articuno wins this. And Mars doesn't even go. Okay, so she's going to have rest. She's got to have rest if she's doing that. Yep. Kuno still, I would say, pretty favorable here. Two Blizzards has a range from here to KO. A pretty good one. And he's going to agility up first. Okay. But that's so iffy because of the psychic drops. Yeah, Tay getting unlucky here. I think that Tay usually should still win this even now, but it's definitely getting dicier by the moment. A drop would make this a lot worse. No drop? And he gets it. Okay, so Tay wins game one with a really cool Molt Kuno team. I like that idea. That team just like naturally has an immense amount of bulk. There's a huge amount of pressure on Lapras from all six of these Pokemon, especially Molt, Kuno, Lapras, all combined pressure opposing Lapras immensely. You've got a decent amount of coverage for things like Dragonite or Gyarados that can be problems for Moltres. The like double agility is just a lot of pressure as long as you get your agility guys into good positions to attack, and they pay off here for Tay, forcing their way through Gyarados and Lapras. So well played to him. On Maris's side, not too much to say. You got your couple of like bulky normal blobs, and then like ground plus flyer is always a pretty traditional idea. There's a lot of like Gyarados plus electric or Gyarados plus Doug Trio or Gyarados plus Golem type ideas in this tier. So it feels pretty standard, not too much to say about it. Nothing all that interesting to this team, but Rest Hypno, kind of a Maris staple, something she does in most of her games, I would say. And game two, Golem lead is very outside of standard, but clearly making a hard read. Mara's kind of known to go very, very deep on scouts and be willing to make extremely hard reads like this. So I imagine if Golem is the lead, there's something in back that covers for the worst matchups, because like seeing a lead, Dragonite, Tentacruel, I don't know, really a lot of things. Even like Kadabra, not really a lead you're happy to see, but at least you can just boom it. So she's probably got something to cover for Golem in the back, but getting the call right this time, and Tay just having the worst possible lead into this, so she's probably going to make a predict and Rock Slide, and that's exactly what happens. And now Kang coming into Gyarados. If this is Surf, it's a lot less good. T-Bolt there, interesting. So expecting like a pivot through Lapras or something to cover for the Golem and then maybe get to something else. Not getting it in this case, but here comes Haunter, something that Maris can't reasonably predict for. And so, just like I said last game, like Gyarados plus Electric, Gyarados plus Haunter, both very typical ideas, and Tay doing both at once. I think maybe you consider pivoting through this Haunter, though, instead of doing that, because that's so risky, but it works out here. Kangaskhan down, no chance that the Golem is going to be a good switch in here, so... But calling a Boom immediately, and not getting the call right, but Tay doesn't seem to have Psychic, which makes sense in this metagame, and just choosing to take 45 or 55 on Hypno. Yeah, Psychic Haunter, kind of a rarity these days because it is very free for stuff like Hypno to come in on. And now Gara gonna come in. Does he make the predict again? Not this time. I think you probably... okay, so gonna go to Electabuzz, call a T-Bolt, gets it right. And Golem not in a great range. If this is Psychic Electabuzz, you definitely click that. But mid-grounding with Body Slam and getting the para is pretty nice. Getting frozen is extremely not nice. Tay didn't switch on that turn, so that's really bad. This Electabuzz is just fodder now. Or Gyarados gonna come in. Okay, so Tay is gonna have to get a lot of things right. I would stay in and just attack with a normal type move here, which I think Tay probably did there, but got punished again. I think Tay made some good plays this game so far, but Hypnosis miss, Volpera, Freeze, just a lot of stuff not working out his way. T-waving here and getting put to sleep. So this is looking extremely unwinnable, and Tay just gives up right there. Yeah, so unfortunate game two. Tay may be conceding a little bit early, but Freeze plus Gyarados getting full parad plus Haunter missing Hypnosis all kind of combined to just incrementally put him further behind. Hard game to play for sure. I do wonder what the last two were that he didn't want to play it out, but either way, here we are. Can't say too much about the teams with two unrevealed at each side. Golem lead catching Electabuzz is nice, but I would also say it's a bit lucky to just kind of call that and get it. It's not like Tay exclusively leads well, maybe he does. I'm looking back at game one, there was another Electabuzz lead. Maybe Maris actually had more reason to expect that than I know, but either way. I think that those kind of super fishy leads are not my cup of tea personally, but if they work for her, they work. So game three. Dragonite, Clefable. So another Clef probably doesn't have Blizzard in the lead slot, I would imagine, but maybe it does. So Tay getting out of there, expecting a Blizzard to come in, and Sing on Lapras. That's really bad. Yeah, so this is a speed tie between the two. So even if Lapras wakes up, it's still going to be pretty messy. I didn't love the Lapras switch. I didn't really think Clefable was likely to have Blizzard in the lead, given that like Slam Beam is really potent and T-Wave is pretty necessary. So Tay just trying to wake up on this and get something, but it's not looking good. Yeah, so Tay just loses a whole Lapras for nothing, and now this game looks very bad. Going to Slowbro, Maris clicking T-Wave, which is a smart click there, because even if Lapras wakes up, you have a 50% chance that you're going to go after it and just put it to sleep, and a 50% chance you'll go before it the next turn, even if that doesn't work. And Tay showing a Slowbro and just going for game. So just looking at the team from Tay, I see like some... Like, my guess is if the Dragonite's in lead, there's like some para spam for Slowbro to go for it, but Tay kind of just getting fed up with this one and going for it immediately. But yeah, I'm gonna guess no Hypno on Tay's side, but maybe some other supportive paralyzing stuff like an electric type, maybe a Kadabra. There could be a Hypno maybe, but either way, it's looking increasingly iffy. And goes to +4, so not taking any damage here. And it makes sense because you get ahead of the Clefable on speed. But now Slowbro forced to rest, and it's just looking increasingly iffier. At least Slowbro can't be put to sleep by Hypno, but it's still... Keep in mind, it is still slowed down from that T-Wave, so it's going to have to T-Wave this Hypno, and then it's still going to be slower. So like here, you can't even T-Wave it, you just have to rest until it gets out of here. Yeah, so Tay just going to rest loop this. I'm going to bring up the speed to at least normal until this rest loop ends, because there's no real reason for Tay to do anything else, and Maris is not going to break with Seismic Toss doing this. I think she's just doing it repeatedly to ensure that she gets the correct turn of like switching on this slow bro. Or she might just try to run down the rest as much as possible before doing that. Who knows? Either way, 22 more seismic tosses, 12 more rests, and here we go again. I'm just going to keep bumping the speed until we see something else happen here. And on this rest, there comes a Raichu looking for the crits. And Tay smartly not risking it, but now Slowbro forced out on 0 turns of sleep looks really bad. So Tay's going to need to spread a good bit of paralysis for this Slowbro to have a real chance of ever coming back into this game. Ninetales coming in on a predicted Blizzard accurately. No freeze this time, thankfully. And Ninetales unfortunately going to get checked by a Gyarados, which seems to be a go-to for Maris now. The burn helps. It makes it so Gyarados is going to have a harder time getting through things that it needs to physically attack, but it's going to Hydro Pump this Ninetales in the face through confusion. Only a 40% chance for that to work out. And Persian looks really scary, actually. So one scary thing for Tay is just like the very big lack of resources, but that helps. Okay, so now both Lapras is basically going for free, relatively. But Kang looks borderline unstoppable here without a sack, and sacking doesn't look very good with Hypno still there to possibly get sleep later. Yeah, I don't know if I love Tay's odds here. Like, Slowbro can't really come in on a body slam, so you kind of just have to go for this, but Persian can't even win this without getting like a Hyper Beam crit. Going to Dragonite on a predicted Hyper Beam. No Hyper Beam here, so this Dragonite is in big trouble. Blizzard would take it out, so there goes the Dragonite. Yep, Maris making the correct call there, and now Tay sending. Okay, well Tay has a Kang, so that helps a lot. That doesn't help at all. Now Tay can just lose a speed tie and the game is over. That's really unfortunate. That's sad. Okay, so Tay definitely losing to some shenanigans here. I really do think that they're like this Raichu is a huge problem with that Slowbro asleep, of course. But I do think Tay had some pretty decent outs if that didn't happen the way it just did. And the Kang even lives this for insult to injury. So now Kang is just gonna pretty much clean up. Like, yeah, Tay doesn't really have any plays and just forfeits the game. So, unfortunate RNG. I do think that once the Slowbro got caught in the rest loop, the game was looking pretty unfortunate regardless. I think Tay definitely messed up by hard sending Lapras and the Clefable. I think, like, Sing is not the most likely lead Clefable click, for sure. But Blizzard, I would say, is even less likely to come out there. I think you just commit with the Dragonite, take whatever you can get, and go from there. So as far as the teams go, again, not too much to say about Maris's team. You've got Gyarados plus Electric, pretty common pairing. And the two bulky blobs are back again. So just a very standard, not weak to a lot team. With the main problem being like slow lead means you can just lose to a sleep lead. Lose the lead anyway. I mean, you don't lose the game automatically if a Haunter gets in there and puts you to sleep, but still kind of sucks. Beyond that, Tay's team, interesting with the Lapras plus Slowbro. I think maybe Hypno over Lapras might have actually served this team better, because then you get para spreading, you have a sleeper on this team instead of no sleeper, you aren't just cooked by T-Bolts as badly as this team currently is. So I do think that might have been a worthwhile improvement to consider, but ultimately just doesn't work out for Tay here. I thought it was going to be more a para spam idea, but it actually was a lot of offense combined with a Slowbro. So I'm not quite sure what the idea was meant to be. I don't really know, but either way, this one goes Maris's way, so congrats to her. I'll see you all in the next one. Click the buttons, and yeah, see you tomorrow with another one.